Episode 4. If the Sabbath is kept in heaven, how can it be optional on earth? Key text, Isaiah 66:22-23. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. If God commands the Sabbath to be kept in heaven, then what makes you think it's optional on earth? In Isaiah 66:22-23, the Lord declares, For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, from one Sabbath to another shall all flesh come to worship before me. This is a prophecy of the eternal future, after sin is destroyed, after the earth is made new, after Satan is silenced. It is the kingdom of God fully restored, and the Sabbath is still there. So here's the devastating question for every Sunday preacher, every Sunday churchgoer, and every tradition-following Christian. If you plan to worship God on the Sabbath in heaven, why reject it now? Why would you fight the very day God says will be honored by all flesh forever? Let's be clear, this isn't about Judaism. This is about creation, covenant, and consistency. God doesn't have one law for heaven and another for earth. The same God who blessed the seventh day in Genesis chapter 2 and 3 is the same God who says it will be honored in the new creation. If God blessed and sanctified the seventh day before sin entered the world, and he calls for its observance after sin is removed, then what excuse do you have for ignoring it during sin's reign? This destroys the claim that the Sabbath is ceremonial or temporary. Ceremonial shadows are not eternal. They vanish when their purpose is fulfilled. But the Sabbath has no expiration date. It is rooted in God's creation of the universe, not Israel's exodus from Egypt. In fact, the very reason God gave for keeping the Sabbath in the Ten Commandments is creation. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Exodus 20:11. So let's shatter the illusion. The Sabbath wasn't given only to Jews, it was given to Adam. It wasn't nailed to the cross, it was written in stone. It wasn't replaced by Jesus, it was honored by Jesus. It isn't legalism, it's loyalty. And now we see that the Sabbath is not only historical and moral, it is eternal. So what's the real reason people reject it? Let's be honest. It's tradition, comfort, popularity. Most churches worship on Sunday, so people follow the crowd. But Jesus said in Matthew 7:13-14, Broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. You can't follow the crowd and enter through the narrow gate. Here's the ultimate test. If God's eternal kingdom honors the Sabbath and you reject it now, how will you fit in there? How will you explain to the angels that you thought Sunday was more holy than the day God sanctified? How will you convince the prophets, apostles, and Christ himself that your pastor's sermon outweighed God's law? You won't. Because the Sabbath is not a cultural issue. It is a kingdom issue. Isaiah 66:23 is not a suggestion. It is a prophetic fact. And the only question is, will you align with heaven now, or be forced to confess your error when it's too late? If you won't keep the Sabbath in time, you won't be trusted to keep it in eternity. So ask yourself, why fight the Sabbath on earth if you plan to honor it in heaven?